we have dedicated time during the school day to talk to them about social emotional skills. So at the middle school, we have character education lessons. We have an SEL, like social emotional learning curriculum at our high school, and just like really trying to focus on developing the whole student. It's not, if we just academically prepare you, you still won't make it through college. You just need too many other skills outside of just knowing how to do math and how to read. And so we really try to focus on what are the skills that are going to make students successful adults, and how can we help them, solve problems and learn self-discipline and things like that, and self-worth while they're in high school, so that they feel like they have the skills needed to be successful after high school.
So Summer, thank you so much for joining the Always Learning podcast. We're really happy and excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
It's Friday. None of us know what the life of a school leader is, actually, if you don't live it. So I think it's always interesting to help people understand the work that you do and how you got there and why it's important to you. But first, I just want to start with you. So you lead a school. You obviously have had things go right for you in education in your life. So let's just start there. What in your K-12 experience, what in your college experience, where do you, first of all, locate the biggest indicators of your success, the things that really contribute to your success, and what went right for you?
I think that I liked teaching. So when I graduated from college, I didn't think I'd be a teacher for life. I thought I would do it for a couple of years. I was a part of a program, a service program, where you taught for 2 years, and then many of my friends went on to be lawyers and did other things after the 2 years were over. But I really liked teaching. I enjoyed it. I shocked myself because I grew up as one of those people who grew up and said I would never be a teacher, but really enjoyed working with students, teaching math, which also surprised me. And then I think in my second year of teaching, there was a lot of turnover at my school. And so I was one of the most senior teachers returning. At that time, I was working in St. Louis Public, and they just had a really high turnover rate that year for teachers. And so I was suddenly thrust into a department lead role in my second year. And so it was my first sort of preview into like what it was like to just be in a leadership position, to work with adults and develop adults. I was not good at it at all because I was a second year teacher, but I found that I really enjoyed talking to other educators and working with other educators across other schools, and just helping to support other teachers at my school. And so that was something that, because I enjoyed that, made me want to grow as a leader and want to take on leadership opportunities. And then one of the things I found after becoming a leader and actually managing teachers and coaching teachers is that I really enjoyed that aspect of getting to develop and see teachers grow in the same way that I enjoyed seeing students grow. And as a school leader, I think you get to do more with families and students, which is brings an even bigger feeling of fulfillment to be able to help and work one-on-one with families and talk to families on a more regular basis, which is something I really enjoy about the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you go back, all the way back, you said something about, I never would have thought I would have been a teacher.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Well,
Why
I
is that?
majored in business economics, and I don't know. When you're in school, I think you either think you're going to be a teacher or you think you're not going to be a teacher. And so it was never something that I would have considered like a career goal of mine when I was younger. And then, like I said, when I stepped into a classroom, I didn't finish a teaching program in college or anything like that. When I stepped into a classroom, it just kind of felt natural. And I really enjoyed working with students. And it was just not something I thought I would enjoy when I was growing up.
I've talked to multiple leaders now, and we've had many of these conversations actually, and several of them have said to me, I was just really good at school. Like, I just did school well. Were you one of those students, like in high school and whatever, where you just were like one of those ones that made the rest of us sick because you just did school well?
Probably.
No.
I would say like in the early stages of high school, I definitely didn't try very hard, which meant my grades kind of reflected that. So I think like freshman and sophomore year, I probably just kind of got by and did what I needed to do so my parents wouldn't yell at me. But then I think once I became a sophomore or junior, I sort of said, oh, I want to go to college. I need to make sure, that I'm in like a good position to be able to apply. And so I think that's when I sort of tried to like really like overachieve or like achieve at a higher level in terms of that. But I would say like, yeah, at college, I would have probably been the person who like set the curve in some of my classes, which probably made people annoyed with me.
Were you always considered, you taught math, so were you always, as a younger person, good at math? Were you a math person?
I was not actually. I was
Hmm.
somebody who really struggled with math. And actually, when they told me I was going to have to teach math because of my business degree, I was very, very nervous because I think I took 2 business classes in college to get that degree, like real like math classes, 2 math classes to get that degree. And I think I was very nervous. I was also teaching geometry, which is one of the most difficult classes to teach. If you ask any math teacher, they hate
Yeah.
geometry and would much rather teach algebra. But I really liked it because it was shapes and it was something that you could help students visualize, and it was something that made it really rewarding for students.
So when you show up to teaching, first of all, the most basic question that I probably know the answer to, did you feel prepared? Like you're standing at the head of a classroom looking at a bunch of kids. Did you feel like I got this?
Definitely not. There were more times I cried my first year than I would can probably count on 2 hands. But I think I like, just pulled myself up and said, I can do this. I don't have the training, but I can definitely learn how to teach the math classes. I definitely can learn how to support a classroom. And I think it makes me a better coach now, being able to like have those experiences of struggling your first year to be able to then coach new teachers and support new teachers who are in the same position I was in years ago. And it also has made me a better leader in terms of the resources I provide my teachers and the understanding with which, the way we run our school for our teachers and the amount of time we give them to plan is coming from a place of like, I've been in your shoes and I want to make sure that teachers feel like they can do this job for more than a year.
Hmm. Hmm. And are you seeing that be true? I mean, or
Yeah,
is,
we do
yeah.
have excellent retention for our staff. I definitely think they feel like there's a greater balance for them in their job and in their role. And I think that's because of some of the work that we've done and just like trying to put ourselves in the teacher's shoes and make sure that the job is something that's feasible for them.
So when you think about like the balancing act that you have to do between being an instructional leader and being somebody that also runs a business, because it is, there's a
Mhm.
business aspect of this, and you're somewhat of a politician, and you have to be a community liaison. It feels like too many jobs in one.
Yeah.
And I say this every time I talk to someone like you. How do you hold all that together? How do you wake up in the morning and feel like you're going to do these 5 jobs or these 4 jobs?
To kind of know that that's what my day is gonna be like, I guess. Like, set an expectation for I'm probably not gonna stop. Today, for instance, we have, like, our senior commitment ceremony, so I'm gonna be here till 7 p.m. tonight, and I think I have, like, every minute of the day planned, if not over planned, and so I think just waking up and knowing that's what's gonna happen today, being, like, very, organized in terms of time, I think is also important and just, making sure not to yeah, like not to over expect that the day is going to be easier and like not to expect that everything's going to go perfectly and just to kind of be flexible with that mindset. I think that is a big piece of it. But I also did a lot of work on my organization over the years to sort of understand that every minute is precious and trying to use
Hmm.
it in every way possible to make sure I can accomplish everything.
I mean, kind of a tough question, Summer. If you think about all of that you just said, which sounds like a lot. So most people just got tired listening to you right now, like about their day or whatnot. Do you think it's sustainable that that's what we expect of the role going into the future? Like that we expect people to do all that?
That I don't know. I would say I think somebody told me a couple years ago the average principal only does the job for 5 years, and I think that's
Hmm.
bad because I don't think you can really be good at something in the first 3 years. And so if I think like the average school is only getting 2 good years out of their principal, that makes me really sad
Hmm.
because I do think it comes down to like the leader of the organization is really important, and whether or not the school is successful is a direct reflection of whether or not like the person in charge is doing a good job with what they're given. And so I do think that I don't know how to fix the problem, but I do think that the idea that there are so many hats and so much involved and a lack of resources in so many schools across the country, I think does make the job more draining for people. And it could be a problem more people talk about.
When I hear you say that you're going to be there until 7 tonight, I just think to myself
This
about
is
like,
a
number
special
one,
circumstance, but the senior
yeah,
commitment ceremony is great though, because it's our seniors committing to their senior year and being very excited about being able to graduate in June. So this is a special night.
yeah. So you had insight, knowledge, or experience working in a traditional district, a
Mhm.
conventional district with conventional schools, and now you're in an autonomous public school, independent public school. What are some of the contrasts and what are some of the freedoms that you have now to actually really put your thumbprint on the work that you guys do?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest pieces is getting to like design the structure and systems that are operating within the school. And so getting to pick what the schedule looks like, the curriculum, what teachers' schedules look like, what activities we provide for students. And I think those pieces really lend itself to being able to design something that's for the families, for the students, but also is feasible for staff. I also think getting to pick our staff, getting to hire staff members, getting to coach them in a way that we feel like is what's best for them and what's best for our students. And really getting to craft and find the right people to build the organization, I think is also really important. I also think managing the budget, I have a lot more power over what we do with the resources we have than I would have had as a district principal, and then that my district principal had that I used to work under in my first couple of years. And so being able to like look at what our students need, what our families, what our teachers need, and appropriately putting those resources to those things on a more individual school level, I think has given me a lot more power over the years.
So, what's unique about your school? We will see lots of schools, and
Mhm.
a lot of them do college prep. A lot of them
Yeah.
do kind of like academic acceleration, like with kids that are behind. All of them do some form of like character and like character development and respect and pride and these and acronyms. You guys love to use some acronyms. So, what sets you guys apart from the other schools?
I think we're college prep, but we put our resources with in alignment with that. And so we go a little bit above and beyond when it comes to that college prep piece. So we our goal is to ensure that every student has access to whatever they want to do after school, and that we help them make sure not only do they have the skills to get there, but that once they're there, they still have support. So we have an alumni coordinator who works for the school who supports all of our alumni while they're in colleges right now with resources, with just getting technology, making sure that they, are showing up to their classes and that they have someone to talk to about those first couple weeks in college. The second piece is that we have a really large college team to support students. So our ratio is about like 20-1 in terms of college counselor to students, or
Hmm.
students to college counselors. So our college counselors are able to have really like close relationships with the students that are on their caseload, and they spend a lot of time with them applying to colleges, figuring out what the right colleges are for them once they get their college decisions, helping them make that decision, helping them really understand what they need to be successful after they leave us. And I think leading up to that senior year, we're still doing work in their classes. We have a junior seminar class where we focus on SAT prep. We take students to lots of different colleges throughout their time with us, starting in sixth grade. Our sixth graders go to college campuses. Our sixth graders stay in dorms so they can start to understand what is college going to be like, and they see themselves attending college. And I think that alignment with the resources we have to the experiences we give students really sets us apart from other schools.
So the college teams is something I wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
So this is something I thought was unique and interesting. You just mentioned we're not just one and done with you.
Mhm.
Like we have support for you after um, um, uh, post high school. I know a lot of schools say we have 100% college acceptance rate, but we don't know what happens to the students after that. Right. So it's great that you got 100% of people in. Tell us a little bit about your college teams and what's first of all, what's the idea there? Like, what's the thing that it does, and then how successful is it?
Yeah, so we're one of those schools where we say we got 100% in, but 100% do not go. And we support the fact that our students, just because they get into college doesn't mean that they need to go to college. And so one of the things that we do towards the second half of senior year is we look at their college acceptances and we say, what is next for you? Like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? And it's a real relationship thing with the counselor and the student to help them decide what they want to do with their next year. Do you want to take a year off and work because you are not in a position where you're ready to make the decision about where you go to college? Are you somebody who wants to join the military because this is a passion of yours and you have found that this is going to be the great next step for you? Are you someone who wants to go to trade school for a year and do, something? We have students who are really interested in beauty and things like that, or technical work, and we help them get into trade schools where they might be more successful or just happier with doing that than going to a traditional four-year college. So the reason we have all of them apply is because we want it to be a choice. So we tell all of our students it should be a choice. You should have the ability to choose between college and something else. And then we help them make that decision. And we really try to focus on also what the financial obligation is going to be for our students and families, because our goal is not for all of our students to be buried in debt after they leave us and not be able to finish school. We want them to make the decision that's going to be best for them. And so we focus on, where can you get 100% of your financial need met, plus also pursue the dreams that you have and try to find that happy medium for them and make sure that they're successful after.
What are you learning from it? Like, what do you learn in the experience of helping students over time?
I guess we're learning what we need to do more of at the high school level to better prepare our students, I guess, is like one of the biggest things. So when we talk to our alumni now, we're curious about what did they find out in college that they wish they had known in high school? What did they find out about themselves, or what did they find out about the work? Did we adequately prepare them for the rigor levels of college? We're also learning about where our students are becoming most successful. And so with our first graduating class last year, we're finding out which schools did we send students to where they were happiest. And we did have some students who only lasted a few weeks at some of their colleges that they went to over the summer for the summer programs and decided that wasn't for me. And they're back at a different school this fall that's closer to home. And so we're learning, about what we've done as a high school to adequately prepare students, but also what are our students telling us about the decisions they made that can help us better advise students that are graduating this year.
When you think about the students who try it and say, this isn't for me, so personally, I know we're not supposed to push everybody to college,
Mhm.
but partially it also is kind of heartbreaking to think that somebody has the capacity or the ability to do it. And there might be, I don't know what I would call non-significant reasons to decide not to do it. Maybe that's a flippant way of putting it, but maybe it's just you just weren't comfortable, or maybe it's something. And you're looking at a kid and you're thinking, you're bright enough to do this.
Mhm.
This will change your trajectory. It will probably break up intergenerational poverty in some cases. I don't know where my question is here, except for like me as a person who's kind of like a layperson on the side who wants all kids to break the chains of poverty and break the cycle. It is no, you should stick with this. You should keep going with this. Do you have a sense of that, or is it just that we do need to be kind of sensitive to the fact that it's not for everybody? And hey, maybe it's the military trade school or something else for you.
I think it's why we do a lot of work in middle school, to talk to students about college, and we take them to college campuses to stay in dorms and things like that, because I do think that a middle school child is still deciding what,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
hasn't even begun to decide or think about it. Sometimes when you talk to a junior in high school, they've already decided. And a lot of it has to do with the experiences that they've had leading up to that point, where it has felt like I'm either good at school or I'm not, which is really sad. And I think that if a student has been in school and they felt like I am good at school, this is something I can do, I feel successful when I'm learning, then I am more likely to go to college because I want to continue learning and continue in school. If I'm a student who has felt like I am not good at this and every day I feel like I'm not like doing as well as I could be doing or as well as I should be doing in my classes, then college is probably not where I want to go, because I don't want to continue to feel like this. And so I think that's where the work comes in with younger students. I think by the time you're a junior in high school, we're not really going to change your mind at that point. We need to really
Hmm.
start earlier and really start talking to you about what is an opportunity for you. And I also think it helps with trying to just ensure that all of our students can be on grade level by the time they're in high school, which I know is something that we really work towards at our middle school. I think the pandemic set us back a lot. And
Hmm.
we're still trying to recover from the learning loss that students felt then, and also the social emotional stress that students felt because they weren't learning in school with teachers. And so I think it sort of made students feel less successful with school during that time. And so, those are just some things we're combating to help make students feel like college can be for them and they can be successful. But I do think it does come down to with the senior, you're not going to send them to college and they're just going to change who they are the next day. I think we have to be real, and the student has to want it and has to be passionate about wanting it for themselves in order for them to be successful.
What were some of the things that you had to do post-pandemic to kind of like address what happened during the pandemic?
I think we definitely had to just first of all teach students how to come back to school, how to work in a classroom with each other again, how to get along socially with each other. I think it was something that we had to really help students feel comfortable learning back in a classroom in person. I think it's also something we had to work with staff on, is how to like come back to an in-person job, how to build up the stamina to be able to do this all day like we were doing beforehand. And that's before we even tackled the learning loss that students experienced in math and reading. We put a lot of resources into our school for a few years in terms of extra classes, extra tutoring, extra support positions in the classroom to make the ratio smaller, just to help make sure students had more support academically and socially, emotionally.
You think about it, was it something like you felt like this is a setback that we'll recover from, or is it like what we heard from some people? No, this is fundamentally different now. The kids are fundamentally different. The teaching is fundamentally different. This isn't something you just recover from.
I would say the teaching feels the same. I think the families will never be the same. I have a young child
Mhm.
now. I did not have children during the pandemic that I was caring for at the same time as working, but I think that families will never be the same after going through that and having to
Mhm.
be at home supporting their child while they were learning at the same time. And so I think the biggest thing that we still haven't been able to see is like how to support our families with what they went through and how to like help them return to what this looks like with school, and to support them with their students. One of the biggest things we're seeing is absences have skyrocketed since the pandemic. And it's a hard thing because our families had their students at home for so long. And anytime anyone was sick, you stayed home because you were nervous it was COVID. And so we're trying to help our families realize that, attendance is very important, and help reinvest them in the importance of sending their students all the time, and getting those attendance numbers back to where they were pre-pandemic.
It's changed for me as a parent in terms of like we've had way more absences post pandemic than we
Yeah.
would have ever tolerated before. And I don't know what happened to our kind of strictness, but yeah, we've gotten a letter on 2 students. We've gotten a letter from the district, hey, one more time. And, we're kind of like, one more time. We run this ship. We are the parents here, whatever. Like we have an attitude about it. But yeah, it is different for us the way that we
Yeah.
treat absences than we did before.
Right.
I always think that the homeschool relationship is very important and often broken.
Hmm.
As much as we try to have good relationships across between school and home, family and teachers, it's complicated. It's complex. It doesn't always work the way we can watch kind of the Hallmark movie version of how it's supposed to happen, and it
Hmm.
doesn't. And I just wonder what could be done outside of schools to support students in school. So, like, not just parents, but all of us that have an interest in supporting kids. How can we help improve that school home relationship? Is it home visits from teachers, being open to that, or is it us doing something as community members?
Um, I think we've noticed a serious decline in the amount of families who come to our family nights, and I don't know if it's because we offered so many of them virtually for a while that they got used to attending them on Zoom. And we still offer some Zoom because via Zoom because it's easier for families to access if they're working or things like that. But I do think bringing families into the school more, there is a definite like human connection and a relationship you can build when you're face to face with those family members. And I think for a few years, we did everything over the phone or over Zoom with families. And I think that has caused kind of a barrier or a lack of a collaboration that used to exist before the pandemic. And so I think one of our focuses this year is on trying to bring families in more and really like become more of a partner in the education for their students, which is one of the reasons that we do the events like we're doing tonight, where the families come with the students, is just to make sure that we're partners in the work.
So, another question that I wanted to ask are what are the best alternatives to colleges that you found as opportunities for your students? So maybe they're not college material, but maybe there's something that still puts them in a high wage, high growth field or occupation. Kind of what are the best alternatives that you've found for students?
Yeah, I think in our area, there are definitely a lot of different trade school opportunities for students. And I think that's where we found, some of our students have like the best luck in terms of after school. So we have worked with them on like if they're interested in a specific trade, like electrician or plumbing or something like that. And so those have been where, or even like computer coding and things like that. Like we've been able to help students find, or computer gaming, help students find different routes to a career if they didn't want to go the traditional route of a college education.
Hmm. And success. I mean, you're seeing kids get into programs where they're successful.
We are seeing kids get in. We don't have we've it's only been a month since our
Okay.
first graduating
So it's
class.
new.
So our
Yeah.
first graduating class was in June, so this is our first group of alumni. So I think we'll have a better idea of the success in maybe December, seeing how students are doing with those programs, and then definitely after a full year, seeing how many students are able to kind of like either successfully complete or feel like they're in a program that is going to make them successful long term.
Yeah. Um, why haven't you figured it out already, Summer? It's been such a long time. Why haven't you figured this out? So every day you wake up, I'm sure, thinking, I hope, keeping in mind that we need to drive achievement. It feels like a lot of people in the education world have given up on the goal being actual outcomes and achievement for students. And it's really disheartening to me as somebody who has been a long time advocate of standards, accountability, assessments, focusing on outcomes and not the shiny penny and all of that. So I'm hoping that I looked up some of your guys' results, and I'm hoping that that's something that you keep in front of mind. But what are the design elements in your schools that actually push kind of reading, math proficiency, and outcomes? Every school has to have some sort of DNA that helps them get there. What is yours?
I think at the middle school level, we have an intervention block that students take every single day that is designed to provide small group support for reading and math. And so students are placed into groups based on what level they're on and then given activities every day that enrich or remediate different skills related to reading and math. We also do an independent reading block at both schools. So we're trying to invest students to become readers by making sure we have robust libraries, making sure they can visit the library, check out books, and that there's dedicated time during the day for them to read for fun so that they are able to explore that and make sure that they're building habits of readers. I think the final design element at the high school level, we're really passionate about every student having access to a college class before they graduate from high school. And so we have formed some partnerships in addition to offering AP classes,
Mm,
which we know is one route for students, but only for a small subset of students who are able to take advanced placement courses in high school. We've also partnered with two college programs where we're able to offer college courses for free to our students. And so some of our students take classes at Hostos Community College through the College Now program, where they are able to leave school and go take a class online or take a class in person and earn college credit when they're a junior or senior. We also have a partnership with Syracuse University, where five of our teachers have actually been trained as instructors. So they're able to teach a Syracuse University course to our high school students as juniors or
mm,
seniors. And that has allowed us to offer a wider variety of college level courses to our students. So students can take personal finance or presentational speaking or forensic science in high school, and they're earning Syracuse University college credit for passing that class. And so
mm.
that's something that aligns to our mission in terms of making sure students are prepared, but also helping students start to earn free college credits so that when they are in college, they've already earned some credits towards graduation that will make college overall cheaper or easier for them.
I think everybody listening should be supportive of these things like college in the schools, early college,
Yeah.
and accelerating that. Because, like right now, I visited a school in one city where the kids are getting at least three of them this year or next year are getting BA on graduation days. So we're pushing for AA degrees or some credits. I think
Mhm.
we just need to keep that push going. Like, first of all, because it's cheap. I mean, it's not cheap for the school, but it's cheap for the students. It's cheaper for parents if you can get those college credits for free while you're still in school.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to tap into you as like the expert on some of these things because us civilians in the world are just like really interested in a few things like reading. For instance, you mentioned reading. I have a reader non-reader. I have a kid who just basically says, "I hate books. I don't like reading, whatever." And then I have one who can't get enough of reading. Right, so it's different. What's the reading problem just in general with all of our kids? Because it doesn't feel like we're doing great with that. It does seem like for years we were teaching reading the wrong way.
Mhm.
If you had to put your thumb on this is the problem, like what's the reading problem that we have with students?
I think the student hasn't found the right book. So I think that the reading problem comes from students thinking that they don't like to read because they haven't read a book that they liked before. And so I think it's maybe they've only read the books that they've had to read in school, and they didn't like the books that the teacher chose for those classes. So one of the things that we started at the middle school level was, like I said, building a robust library and trying to get a student to pick a book that they might like. And what we did a kind of a really great job, I think, of also building a very like big library of graphic novels, because even for students who I found who said, I don't like to read, I will never read, they will read a graphic novel. And a
Mm,
graphic novel
hmm
is a book.
hmm
And
hmm
so,
hmm
if I can get you to read a graphic novel, then maybe I can get you to read a novel that has, some pictures and some words. And then maybe I can build you up into a novel that has, only words. And so one of the things that we do is with our middle school students is we really try to build a personal relationship around reading and start to get to know what the students like, what they enjoy, and we help them pick out the books that we think would be most enjoyable for them. And then we build that over time into our high school libraries as well. But I think the students who would tell me in sixth grade, I hate reading, I won't do it, they will read Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or they will read,
hmm hmm
some of the other graphic novels that we've been able to get into their hands. And so I think it's really, as a leader and an educator, really knowing what books are out there for students, really starting to get to know what your students might like and being able to put the right book in their hands. And then you can build readers.
You can see there's books behind me here. Like,
Yeah.
we've tried in our house to have like a little library for different things because we have multiple kids. One of the interesting things is on one of these shelves back here somewhere, there's the entire Harry Potter series,
Yeah.
which I never read, but
Me neither,
our
sadly.
yeah, our oldest two read those books, but I pulled one off the shelf. First of all, they're so thick and they're so long.
Hmm.
And it amazes me that just 10, 15 years ago, that young people were reading books that thick and that long and that big. But we also have Captain Underpants
Hmm.
back here and some of the shorter ones. It feels like maybe over time, this is just one experience, my anecdotal, that the amount of content and dedication to a book actually has decreased when I think about how big those Harry Potter books are. And I just want to be very honest with you. I started reading the first 5, 10 pages of them and I was bored. I was looking for the scrolling function in the book so that I could just scroll it. So it makes me wonder if there's something really going on too that's hurting readers, like social media or fast content, or the axios of reading, right? Like where we just want stuff quick, fast, and whatever,
Hmm.
and we can't live within a book for long. Maybe that's just my experience, but we've got a variety back here, and they go from longer to very short books over time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that probably does play a part. Since the Harry Potter books come out, we definitely consume things differently and faster than we ever have before. And I do think that's why, sometimes with readers, it's easier to hook you with a graphic novel than maybe, a novel that looks like it's the size of the Harry Potter books.
Hmm
But I do think, we still have students who check the Harry Potter books out of the library every week. And so I definitely think there's space for both. And again, it just comes down to like, what are students interested in? What is going to hook them? Not every student likes fantasy. So,
hmm hmm
if they don't like fantasy, it's not going to change.
So I'll ask you the same question since you were a math teacher about what's the problem with math. If you had to like be the person that was the czar of math in the United States, like what would you identify as one of the problems, the critical problems?
Math is hard for students if you are sort of if you get to a certain point and you're lacking the skills that you need from previous math skills to be able to access the more difficult math problems, it starts to feel very defeating. And then most students kind of give up. And so math builds. And so if you miss a crucial year like fourth grade math or fifth grade math,
Mhm.
and which many of our students did because they were learning virtually. If you miss those years and suddenly you're thrown into an algebra class and you can't multiply or you don't know how to do any like numerical operations with fractions, it suddenly becomes insurmountable. And so for many of our students, they just feel like they're bad at math, and that messaging that they send themselves makes it really hard for them to overcome and to do well in a math class. And so a lot of things that our math teachers do is, trying to make students feel successful, and, really trying to break down the different like mathematical concepts into like easy steps for students to follow, and then trying to, build up their success by lots of practice and lots of rewards and things like that so that they can feel like they're doing well in those math classes.
So we've conquered reading, we've conquered math. I think I'm really interested in the skills that aren't, in work world we consider soft skills.
Mhm.
Let me just ask the direct question: how do you handle teaching self-regulation? How do you handle teaching kids to be in possession of themselves? And I hate to use an old-fashioned word like manners and things that that are going to serve them well beyond academics, outside of school.
Yeah, so we have one of those acronyms, which is the PRIDE acronym, where we talk about professionalism,
All
respect,
right.
integrity, determination, and engagement. But I think we have dedicated time during the school day to talk to them about social emotional skills. So at the middle school, we have character education lessons. We have an SEL, like social emotional learning curriculum at our high school. That's built around, like teaching students about themselves is what we kind of start with, is like, who are you? What kind of scholar do you want to be? What are the things that you enjoy? Getting to know their own personalities, and then helping them like understand conflict, understand like how to resolve conflict, understand how to advocate for themselves, and just like really trying to focus on developing the whole student. It's not, if we just academically prepare you, you still won't make it through college. You just need too many other skills outside of just knowing how to do math and how to read. And so we really try to focus on what are the skills that are going to make students successful adults, and how can we help them, solve problems and learn self-discipline and things like that, and self-worth while they're in high school, so that they feel like they have the skills needed to be successful after high school.
Mm. I'm always, as I visit schools, really interested in kids that were bullied, kids that are LGBTQ kids, kids that have something that identifies them as different, and creating environments where they all feel welcome, like where they can all be. And
Mhm.
I've seen some schools do a very good job at that, where, because you can look at the student population and go, wow, everybody's welcome here. And then I've seen some other schools that unfortunately are not that welcoming. How do you think about the belonging question?
Yeah, I think we try to offer a lot of activities and a lot of different opportunities for students so that they feel like they have a space here. So one of the things, we offer clubs on Fridays. So actually, right now our students are in clubs when they're not at lunch, where there are so many different types of clubs that they can choose from, that they really are able to sort of like find a, s- a part of the school that they can exist in, that might not be like a traditional thing that you would see in a normal school. I also think we really have tried to make our students feel like individuals, and that we like care about each of them individually from the time that they're in sixth grade, and have really focused on trying to involve their voice in the school and things that they're able to, help and support. So we have like town hall community assemblies, and our students get to help plan those and put those on for the whole school. And I think that helps students feel like there's a sense that, they're a part of what they're producing for the school. I think the last thing is we have large culture teams, and they're culture teams for a reason, because they help support positive culture within the school, and are really good resources for students if they're struggling with something, if they are being bullied, that they can reach out to, which is lots of different individuals in the building.
You guys offer a lot of stuff, and I want to, maybe I don't want to delve too much into this, but like, how are you affording all of this? Like, I don't want to look into your wallet,
Well,
but
I'm in New
like, it's
York.
just, yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
we do have a higher per pupil than most other states in the country, which I'm very thankful of. That our state definitely does provide a lot of resources for students, the per pupil funding that we do get for students. But I also think it goes back to just, like I said, managing the resources that you have, and really taking the time to think about what students need and what families need, and really making sure that we're able to use our funding for the things that our students want and our families want in their school.
the funding differential, and you mentioned earlier your ability to spend how you need to,
Mhm.
like your flexibility. All right, two last questions I think are important. One is around what are you doing for teachers? Like, how are you addressing nationally? We hear the stories about teacher burnout,
Yeah.
about teachers being on the brink of quitting, about us not having enough replacement teachers coming up. Post pandemic, I've heard a lot about teachers finding it harder to balance like their home and their life and the expectations. How are you guys addressing that?
By listening to them, I think is a big thing, and being flexible with what we can do with our schedule to support them. So one of the things is we get feedback monthly from our teachers and we ask them questions about that. Every year at the end of the year, we talk to teachers about their time, their schedule, like things like that, like anything that we can change to make things feel more sustainable and to add more balance for them. So a couple of things that we're doing this year, our middle school has Flex Fridays. So our middle school teachers
Mhm.
actually only are in the building 4 days a week. And on Friday, they're only in the building every other Friday. So they teach Monday through Thursday. And then on Fridays, we either have them teach Friday A or they teach Friday B. And the other Friday they can work from home, which our teachers found to be, just kind of like a nice hybrid way for them to be able to like not be in the school building, but still be able to get their work done. At our high school level, we have always been very passionate about we have 8 periods a day. Our high school teachers teach half and the other half are preps. And so rather than like having one prep a day, which is what I had as a first year teacher, our teachers have four
Oh,
preps.
wow.
And so they're teaching 4 classes and they have 4 periods off. And so that really allows enough time for you to be able to like adequately grade, adequately plan, adequately make your copies, and not feel like you're taking all of that home to do if you're using those preparation periods well.
Does that require you to have more teachers so
It
that you cover
does, or
more?
to get,
Yeah.
or to be very mindful of like the schedule and how you schedule students and how many sections you offer of certain things.
All right. Well, the last question is just about you, Summer. So, what is the impact that you want to have? Like, what's the legacy that you want to leave? Would you think, at some point in time, this is all over with? Like, what is it that you would be very gratified to know happened because of you?
I think I've been with the organization now. This is my 8th year. There are a lot of families who I met while trying to get the school off the ground who shook my hand on a corner and signed a petition to help me open the school. And I think a lot of students who I've known since they were 11 who are now 18, 17 years old. And I think one of the most gratifying things is to know that because our school exists, that they were able to do something that they might not have been able to do without the school and without the
Hmm.
experiences they had. And I think the impact that having an impact on families and being able to change the trajectory for a scholar, I think is something that I'm hoping that I will have done if I do decide to ever leave legacy.
Mm. Well, it sounds like you've got it all under control and you've learned everything you need to learn.
Well,
I'm
I'm
sure if
looking
I
at
checked in
my
with you.
calendar today.
Yeah. Well, I so very much appreciate you giving us this insight, like so that we can see. So it's good for people outside of the school to see inside the school, and for us to know that there's a lot going on in there. So, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate this conversation.
And thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.